Hi, my name is Ashley Gabriel, and my project is focused on biomechanically analyzing the Turkish getup. The Turkish getup is a whole body functional exercise that has multiple advantages, such as being used as a rehabilitation exercise, help enhance sports performance and endurance, as well as being used as a movement screening tool. No matter what the goal is for the individual, the Turkish getup helps develop and improve the body's stability, mobility, and strength. Ayesh and Jones define the Turkish getup as a versatile exercise that challenges the maintenance of stability, mobility, and challenges the demands to enhance strength throughout the entire body. For my first participant, she'll be utilizing the Pilates block, and at home she can utilize a shoe since it's lightweight. The purpose of the block is to enhance her movement awareness during the Turkish getup. It helps self-correct any dysfunctional movement and improve her movement patterns. A sign of movement dysfunction is when she loses balance of the block on her fist. As she moves from roll to press and to step 2 of elbow support, the most important factor is core control. Both the legs and the left arm are 3 points of isometric contraction, helping the core to stabilize. As she lifts up, these factors help maintain balance, maintain stability of her spine. The goal here is to brace her abdominals in reducing posterior load of the spine. Vera Garcia, Elvira Brown, and McGill state that when bracing the abdominals, absolute and relative angular position of the trunk muscles respond, leading to reduction of trunk displacement. This technique decreases the chances of low back pain, neck pain, scapular thoracic injuries, and hip mobility dysfunction. The abdominals bracing is maintained throughout the Turkish getup exercise. Her next step is hand support. As her abdominals are still bracing, her left arm and scapular stabilizers have concentrically contracted. When she uses a kettlebell, the isometric contraction of the abdominals will take most of the force. This will assist her in moving appropriately in the Turkish getup and also condition core endurance. And it also helps begin develop the strength of shoulder musculature and scapular stabilizers. In step 4 of the hybrid, she's now in a horizontal movement pattern. Her center of mass is pressed through her arms while the center of gravity has not yet changed. When she begins to utilize a kettlebell, the acceleration of gravity will change, forcing her mass to be centralized at her core, forcing the abdominals continue to brace and take the force. McGinnis stated that torque is influenced by position and orientation of the line of action. In the leg sweep, knee support, and half kneel steps, the Turkish getup mainly focuses on torque, involving only the hip. In the following step, my participant represents force by the involved muscles of force, and the moment arm is represented by the muscles attachment site, such as the tendons. Johnson and Hoffman stated that the muscles of force include muscles that have combined functions, such as glute medius, the anterior fibers of the glute medius, glute minimus, TFL, semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and the gracilis. Going from knee support to half kneel, she internally rotated her hip. As stated by McGinnis, the line of action from the muscle force is along the line joining the attachment and by the direction of the tendon. As she rotated her left leg internally, it produced torque. When reversing the Turkish getup, she will be, instead of internally rotating, she'll be externally rotating. The concept is the same when she uses the muscle force, and it is the same with the moment arm, except different muscles are involved. The muscles involved are the external rotator group. One example is the piriformis. Johnson and Hoffman stated that torque is greater when hips are externally rotated and at a extended angle. Comparing from getting up to reversing the Turkish getup, her torque is going to be greater in external rotation than internal. As she stands, she has maintained a constant gravitational load throughout the whole body, especially involving the right arm and core. The isometric contraction of the core and right scapular stabilizers have increased in strength. In my research, Harris, Cronin, and Keogh's literary review have found that isometric training increases in strength, while dynamic contraction increased in power. This is the reason why the kettlebell is used and will be explained for increase in power in the next participant. My next participant will be using a kettlebell. The shape of the kettlebell creates a hanging position that causes a downward force. During the Turkish getup, the kettlebell sits on the outside of the wrist while the wrist has to maintain a neutral position. The purpose of the kettlebell sitting on the outside of the arm is to focus on those rotators to keep them stabilizing the arm as it goes through torque as well. Ayesh and Jones stated that its shape challenges the center of gravity, permitting curvilinear movement patterns and develops centrifugal forces. Here is a following video. My participant moved horizontally and vertically under the kettlebell. Enhances strength and power through sheer forces to overcome the inertia that is resisting his whole body to change. As he presses against the mass, it increases acceleration using his whole body. At the beginning of each stage, he manipulates his body through angular acceleration. Just by a tenth of a second, he quickly pushes up the kettlebell, promoting power. Then he slowly moves through the rest of the stage of these steps. This causes strength. If you notice, he does not rotate his left leg and while keeping his right leg stationary. When he rotates his whole body on top of the hip joint, he does create the same torque. However, there is more torque added since there's more weight added. He's adding, with this technique, he's adding more force of the muscle by rotating the whole body, utilizing the same internal and external muscles, making them work harder. Injury factors of the Turkish get-up can be intrinsic. This involves skeletal malalignment, lack of muscle strength and endurance, joint inflexibility, poor joint alignment, and poor firing pattern. However, injuries can stem from Turkish get-up. There can also be a previous history and an intrinsic factor of poor movement patterns prior to performing a Turkish get-up. Extrinsic injury factors of the Turkish get-up can be single versus repetitive nature of task, poor movement patterns again, and poor performance intensity and frequency. It's very important that when performing the Turkish get-up, the Pilates block or the shoe is first used. It is very important to get the movement pattern down first before adding weight to increase performance, intensity, and frequency. The last few slides are the references I utilized for my Turkish get-up presentation. Thank you.